to be a little strange because I am having internet issues. So I called in on the phone and I'm using that for audio. But this is our September kickoff call. So we're a little late, obviously, in the month. And I know with Labor Day last week, we're probably all getting a slow start. So I just want to say, don't be discouraged if that describes you. I've been looking at the Ring the Bell feed and the Fit and Fierce page, and it looks like everyone is kind of starting the same way. So it is, it's something where we can just kind of hit the ground running right now and get going. So what's coming up for us? And I haven't put a calendar in the team page yet, but we are starting next Monday, going to have a 3-day refresh group. And as usual with the 3-day refreshes, if somebody wants to start on like a Wednesday as opposed to Monday, totally fine. Our goal is just to get them in the group. And I explained this to Stacy, but I just wanted to share it here. If you're inviting to the 3-day refresh, most people will say, just give me like the 3-day kit. And I just want to say, a lot of times what I still do is talk to them about their goals and see where they stand and see, maybe what their struggles are. And I almost always recommend that they still go with the 3-day refresh challenge pack because I think that the amount of fiber that is on a 3-day refresh is pretty heavy. And a lot of times starting with a couple of days of Shakeology first helps them adjust more quickly. So that's something to keep in mind when you're talking to people about the 3-day refresh kit versus the challenge pack. And if you have questions about it, I'm more than happy to talk to you, but that's just kind of a way to get them to like commit long-term and hopefully see longer changes in the 3 days and avoid any issues with like bloating on the 3 days that prevent them from losing weight or maybe not seeing the inches lost, which I've had a few times as well. The next thing is Stacy posted in the team page about like a 5-day Shakeology group or a 5-day free group as like a way to build your customer base. So like back in the day, whenever we started coaching, we would run these free groups constantly, and they're a really good way to make contacts. Now with the algorithms, it's a little bit harder to get as much engagement when you're running a free group, so we don't do them as much. But when we have something special like pumpkin spice Shakeology or the seasons change, it's a really good time a lot of times to run a free group. So we have like some free 5-day crockpot menus, and then we also have, of course, Clean Week, and then we have some other sample menus that we have used in the past that we could use for a free group. So if that's something you're interested in, talk to Stacy. Because I'm traveling that last week of the month, will not be doing it, but if somebody would be interested in like the second week of October, I'd be good with doing that as well as like a fall type free group. And the cool thing about offering 5 days of Shakeology with it is if you bought a box of pumpkin spice or you have packets sitting around, you can actually sell 5 of your own packets for $25 to someone or $27.50, $28 now with like the change in shipping. A lot of times you want to charge a little bit more. And you can get somebody to join you for 5 days and use Shakeology, which means that like if you are considering signing your spouse, this is a really great time to do it because you can get packets through a challenge pack with your spouse. You're getting commission back from whatever challenge pack you're setting your spouse up with. And if you add 5 people into your Shakeology group or 4 people into your Shakeology group, oftentimes you are recouping the rest of the cost. So it's a really easy way to basically spend no money on a challenge pack at the end of the day, and you have a couple of customer leads right off the bat. So that's something I always recommended whenever we used to do this a lot, as a way to go ahead and get like 5 people in the door as potential challenge group participants for you, help them get a transformation quickly, and potentially earn yourself 2 Success Club points from signing your hubby or significant other, get that commission back, and it gives you now a way to use a promo code and get it for even cheaper. So it's kind of a cool time to do it. And if you have questions about that, make sure you talk to me or Stacy about it. We can help you sign like a spouse or family member in the most effective way possible and go ahead and run a group right away like this. And that gives you some really good momentum going in. Then the last thing is, Kelly and I were talking about this. There are officially 100 days left in the year on September 22nd. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but it's a really cool time for us to run like one last Morning Meltdown 100 group. Of course, they could start up until like 60 days are left in the end of the year because of the 60-day calendar. But if you have somebody that likes to do that Rachel Hollis last 90 days or somebody that you've been talking to about the Morning Meltdown 100, September 22nd will be a really cool date for us to start. We can market it as there's 100 days left in the year. You can pick a devotion to do with it too. You can sign up for Rachel Hollis's last 90 days, and you can see a transformation for the end of the year. So that is something that I'm going to be inviting to really heavily, along with the 3-day refresh group. And that is something that allows you guys also to get your last few people in with the Morning Meltdown 100 discount. And of course, if you have people that want to sign up until the last day of the month, that's totally fine as well. So that's kind of what's coming up. I know the last thing, this is more for you guys, but Megan Ewelton, I've got to go back and watch the call from today because she does her like leadership calls on Mondays, is going to do like a rank advancement help bet type group, taking the help part out of it. It's more about accountability and using the Success Club tracker, but I think there's a $25 buy-in. There will be cash prizes for those that rank advance. I'm going to get all the details and I'll like delineate that into the groups. But if you are someone who is pushing for Emerald, pushing for Diamond, trying to get to that next level, and you know you need that added accountability right now, I highly suggest doing this, especially because you'll be surrounded by people that are on our bigger team. And as we all know in our challenge groups, when you have people that are showing up, you want to show up more because your competitiveness kicks in. Same thing on the business side. So if this is you and you want to like push to the next level, if it's Ruby, if it's Emerald, if it's Diamond, if it's 2-star Diamond, there are a couple different bet groups going on for that for the month of September. And it's a really good time to do this, you guys, because this is the time that people start getting lazy in their businesses with back to school, craziness of the season changing, like all the excuses come out. We start losing our like summer momentum with our own goals. And ultimately, it's the time to really push towards what you want to make happen for the end of the year. So I think this will be really cool. And it's something that I'm like already a member of the group. So I'm going to go back and watch her call from today and I'll get all the details on it. And then everybody that's pushing can be a part of it and we can just motivate each other. I know Rock Your Rank is something we did last month and it worked really well, just for getting like business tips and sharing with each other and saying, this is what I did today. And ultimately, the more of that we can share with each other, I think the more excited we'll be about our business, which leads into tonight's topic. So the one thing I hear a lot or see a lot, especially like I said, this time of year, is like life kicks in, the crazy kicks in, people put the business on the back burner. And it made me think, you know, like if we found this to be like a fun thing or something that really brings us joy consistently, then we would prioritize it, right? Like if, you know, ultimately we looked at this as something that was improving our lives regularly, the business side of things, I should say, it would become priority. And so I think the best way to make that happen is to obviously find the parts of this that bring us joy. And I was inspired to do this call from several conversations I've had in the past of people like taking a step back because they lost their joy in this, or seeing people like, you know, actually take a step forward. Like Amanda came to my mind immediately when I was like, you know, looking at the kind of basics of the coaches that are more successful with this. They are finding joy in like their journeys and they're showing up every day. They're really plugging into the community of it. And those people oftentimes are like crushing the business side of things, maybe not even with trying as hard, but it's because they are seeing so much like personal success and they're getting so much fulfillment out of this. So she's like the person I think of when I'm like, she's just there every single day. She like loves the people. She loves on everybody. She's having a good time with it. And the business stuff flows because people see that, right? So that's kind of what like today's topic will be, is like how to find joy in your business to build real success here. And I don't mean like, you know, you don't have to be a 6-figure earner overnight, but this is something more like, you know, build something sustainable, build something that lasts, and build something that really is impactful for you. Like maybe it's covering the cost of your groceries. Maybe it's helping like a family member each month get healthier. Maybe it's covering a mortgage payment or daycare. Like all that stuff, you know, kind of transforms over time. But ultimately, whatever success looks like to you is what really matters here, right? So we want to find the joy in this, and we want to build the success that matters to us. So what I want to say first and foremost, and I think that Beachbody is wonderful, but I think that one downside to it is oftentimes what happens is you come in and instead of looking at it like, this is my fresh new business I can build any way I want to, you look to the person that signed you up, or you look to the person next to you on your team and you start to duplicate what they do. And that's fine, of course, if they're seeing success, but if it's not you and you're doing it, it's never going to click, right? Like you're going to feel, you know, like when you're making workout videos and you're like, this sucks, I don't want to do this, and sharing them in your stories, people are going to see that. Like if that's not your thing and your thing is more like, hey, I want to talk about like the meditation I just did today, that was really amazing, and talked to you about the benefits of meditation as opposed to that. Do that thing, do that thing that brings you joy. So the first thing I wanted to say is there's a million ways to get to the top, or whatever your top is in this. You do not have to do things the way I do them, the way Stacy does them, the way Amanda does them, the way Ashley does them, the way anyone else does them to get to the top. The one thing I often see is that you see people come out of the gate like sprinting and seeing massive success. And oftentimes those people look like no one else. They're doing things no one else does. Like, I think that's a thing that we have to really keep in mind, because we tend to start to take on traits of one another or take on habits of one another because we are so close in this. When in reality, the reason why you're going to have a kick-ass business is because you are you. You're not Beachbody. You're not a walking billboard. You're not like the Rise and Shine crew. You're not Team Fearlessly Fit United. You're you, and you are showing up, and you are showing somebody else like what they're capable of. So make sure that is something that you keep in mind, because I think oftentimes it gets a little stressful. You start to beat yourself up. I go through this myself. Like this month, I haven't helped one person. I had a conversation today of like a girl who wants to send her performance line back. Yesterday, it was a girl who wants to send her Shakeology back. The day before, it was somebody who doesn't want to renew her bod and had already renewed. And then I start looking at what the next girl on social media is doing, or I start watching this thing, and I'm like, I'm just not as good as her. And you know what that does? That takes away from all those people that need me, that don't need them, So keep that in mind, and try to remember why you started this and what you have to offer, not what the next person has to offer. So let's find a way to do this our way, and not everything in this is going to bring you joy, because it is a business, it is a job, but ultimately if you do it the way that makes it fun for you, it makes it exciting for you, that's how you can keep this something that brings you happiness. So the first thing I want to say is, and I posted this, whatever, a lot of people, I feel like less people get excited about the idea of a team call. I don't feel like, I can't wait to hear about this. It's more like, this is happening, can't make it. This is happening, can't make it. This is going on, can't make it. I'm like, all you're doing is like infusing negativity around this thing that's like part of your business, right? So the first thing I want to say is happiness is an inside job. Like, what does that mean? That means that you have to show up regardless. You have to bring your A game, even if things don't go the way you expected. You need to show up for the team. You need to show up for you. You need to show up for the challengers that you bring in. And you have to keep in mind that the people that you bring into this, especially on the business side, are never going to match your effort. So if you're not showing up, you can't expect your coach to show up. If you're not showing up for challenge groups, it's hard to expect your challengers to show up. Unless they're a unicorn, there's always like a 1 in 10 unicorn factor out there where these people just get so excited about this and they do everything. But in general, people will do about a quarter of what you do. So the way I kind of heard this explained, and I think we hear it all the time, but like, this is your business. A lot of times people don't really like hold it in that higher regard, because it ultimately either costs you nothing to get started, like you bought your challenge pack and you got your like business services fee waived for the first month, that $40 waived for the first month, or maybe you did pay the $40 and that's it. But either way, that like initial investment into a business is nothing in comparison to how much it typically takes to open a business. If you went to open a coffee shop, you would have the cost of like, maybe it's a franchise, you'd have franchise costs. It's the cost of like renting the building or building the building. It's the cost of supplying all the equipment. It's the cost of training all the employees to get in there. You have to buy the cups, you have to buy the coffee, you have to buy the like syrups, you have to buy all that stuff, right? This business is really hard to hold at the same level because you start at such a smaller like entry, right? But what you have to think of is, this is your business. Like, if the coffee shop were your business and you would be showing up for it every single day, this coaching business, you should show up for every single day. So even if that means like, of course, I've been through like pregnancies, I've been through not feeling good, I've been through like the postpartum thing, I've been through periods of depression. Of course, I'm not showing up at my best in those times, but oftentimes if post is scheduled, like my assistant's doing something for me, I'm asking somebody else to cover it, and there is an active business still going on, because that's my storefront. And so that's the first thing. Like, you have to kind of like, obviously you're not going to feel happy about doing everything, but you have to realize that like, you create your happiness in this by showing up, right? Because usually by you showing up, that's how results come. That's how like the person wants to sign up with you, or the person compliments you on social media, or your transformation even occurs. And I think having that transformation is like the biggest starting point to finding that key to happiness. So there will be constant swings to bad and good in this business. Like I said today, I had somebody say, I want to return my performance plan. I had the next person say, I don't want my on-demand to renew. And I know what that means. Like, that's money out of the next paycheck, even though I got paid for it already. Then it's like somebody else messaging me like, I hate Beachbody's auto ship. Like, well, that's what everything is now, you know? But if I let that control everything else, then I would have missed out on the girl that I got to speak with today for 30 minutes who just went through a miscarriage, is battling IVF issues. Her doctor tried to make her try keto, and her husband actually ended up having like a huge spike in his cholesterol, which could be detrimental to his health. Like, I would have missed that connection if I would have let all the other stuff cloud it. So continuing to show up despite the bad, I think, is a really, really key piece. And we all know that after the like storm often comes the rainbow, right? And this business is going to be the same way. Of course, there's just going to be like storm, rainbow, storm, rainbow, storm, rainbow. But ultimately, if you are showing up and you're being consistent and you're finding like your groove with this, you'll have more of the good stuff than the bad. So I think that is the first point I wanted to make. The second one is, there is this thing called an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And the best way I know how to explain it in this business is like, are you that person that gets yourself to Success Club 6? Or that, say, like last month with the tank top being like a prize? Did you get those 3 sales and then you just stopped because you're like, I got there. I got what I wanted. I'll save everybody else till next month. Like, if you are that person and you pump your brakes right whenever you hit your goal, that is a scarcity mindset. If you're the person that's like, who am I going to help next? How am I going to get to the next goal? Like, how am I going to get to Success Club 10 now? How am I going to break my record of what I did? Or how am I going to help, like, you know, 1 month I went in, I'm like, I just want to help one person each day. Like, that's in general what I try for. And if I ultimately stopped when I got to Success Club 5 or Success Club 10, like, I'm taking money out of my own pocket for that, right? Like, if I ultimately looked at this as like an abundance mindset, there's always going to be somebody new to help. I will see a difference in my pay. I'll see a difference in my effort. I'll see a difference in maybe the like impact I'm making on social media. If I just shut down at Success Club 6 and I close my doors, then my business stops. So if you couldn't do that again with like a coffee shop, right? Like, if you decided that you wanted to make $500 in a day and that was your goal, and you just shut the doors, like if it were like 10 a.m. after that, well, you're going to be missing out on a lot of business, and those people might not come back to you the next day. So I think having the abundance mindset is really key in this, and knowing that there's always someone out there to help. It might not feel like it sometimes, you guys. Sometimes it might feel the most frustrating, but I guarantee if you get frustrated because the one person says no or the other person ghosts you and you just kind of shut down, you're probably missing out on somebody else that's back there creeping in the background. And keep in mind, the other part of this is, in this business, sometimes you do have to spend money to make money. And I know this like causes some eye roll sometimes, but you know, if you are somebody who, because of budget reasons, like, I will only ever try Shakeology and it's only ever going to be this flavor, what do you think you're going to be able to talk to people about? Like, that Shakeology and that flavor. Like, when the people are asking about other flavors, or what about Energize, or what about Beach Bars, or what about like even Daily Sunshine, you know, and you've never tried those things, it's going to make it really hard for you to infuse that into your business and create more growth. So I know like the sales that we do a lot of times are great because we feature a lot of things, but then I'll ask like, hey, who wants to cover what topic? And I'll hear, oh, I've never tried like 5 of these things, so I can't cover that topic. And it's like, well, like, what if you have customers that are in this sale and they see those things, they're interested in them, you've never tried them. So keep that in mind. Like, you know, maybe it's like you decide to only use half a serving of Shakeology for a month, so the next month you can delay Shakeology and try something else. Like, that's always an option. I'm not saying that like that's what everybody should do, but you know, if you do want to try other things and you're worried about the cost of things, like, that might be something to consider. It might be something to consider also, like, again, looking at the spouse account, because oftentimes the volume that's coming through that can cover some of the extra fees too. So just keep that in mind. I think the abundance mindset in this business is really key, because oftentimes it can feel like I'm not getting enough likes on my post. I'm not getting enough people like responding to my polls. I'm not getting enough people that say yes to the coach opportunity. When in reality, like, if you flip it on its head, it's like, okay, how can I grow these things versus like, this isn't happening for me. And ultimately, if you say, how can I grow these things, you'll often find that you get creative and you'll start to grow them, because there are just constantly people out there. And I think Instagram like was my huge clue into that, because Facebook, of course, after a while started to feel a little like, I think I'm about to reach my friend limit here and I don't really know who else to talk to here. when in reality, there's, always some other avenue that you can take to expand. The next thing is franchise your business. So like in the world of business, whenever you kind of hit capacity, you tend to say, what's a way I could duplicate this and increase my income and increase my impact without me having to be that person that does it? And in our case, it's adding new coaches and helping them expand their business as well. And I know that this is oftentimes the slowest part of growth for us and the hardest part of growth for us, and even the hardest part to offer to other people, because we're so scared to talk about what the business is doing for us if we're not really where we want to be yet in that. But ultimately, you guys, there's a lot of value in doing this at the same time as your best friend doing it with you, or doing this at the same time as somebody else who's on equal footing and growing it together. Two is better than one, right? And you can come up with better ideas together. You can run more fun groups together. You can grow your team faster together. And ultimately, if you can grow a team in this and you can find 2 to 5 really strong leaders to be on your team, you can create real sustainable growth. If you're trying to do it all yourself on a retail business, you will see your cap is only so much, only what Success Club 10 or 5 or whatever you're typically hitting, plus any renewals maybe you're doing for you. When you start duplicating yourself, franchising yourself, adding coaches that match your effort levels, that's where you start to see real growth with this. And that's the hardest part. Sometimes we get lucky and we find somebody, and sometimes we have to have that challenger that sticks with us for a year before they're ever ready to take that step. But continuously, encouraging other people to explore what the business has to offer is a huge, huge piece of it. And I think just continuing to show other people, maybe I'm not a 6-figure earner yet, but I see where that potential is with this. And as you start to franchise your business or sign new coaches, you can start to work together and delegate activities. You can take ownership over maybe the areas of the business that you love. Me, I really can't stand the minute details of figuring out who logged in where and did what, but I really like the speaking with people one-on-one and checking with people one-on-one thing. I often am better one-on-one than I am in the groups. Whereas Stacy today, she's I scheduled all the posts in the groups today, just FYI. I'm thank you. But we have to work together in this because it's just a lot of work to keep up with it. So knowing where your strengths lie and bringing other coaches into your team and working with other coaches on your team to work on those areas that you really like, I think makes for a more fun group. It makes for a better run group too. And then a lot of times we don't really have this structure on our team as well, because I don't think we grow as fast as other teams. But a lot of times when you do bring on new coaches, your goal is to train them up, show them what you do, and then they start doing it on their own. They're running their own groups. They're bringing other coaches in who want to learn to do the same thing. They're making boot camps their own. They really are figuring out how to grow social media, and they are starting to create their own feel in this. And that's really great. I think sometimes we lack that, which unfortunately, we can infuse a lot of personality into the challenge groups just by showing up ourselves. But I think we miss out on cool themes we could be doing in groups, or cool competitions we could do in different groups, because I think a lot of our team structure has been set up where it's we put out the calendar, everyone invites to that. Whereas the way a lot of teams run, you come in, you kind of learn how to do it, and then you go off and you do it on your own. And it's not really that hard to do because Beachbody has put a lot of scripts and stuff in place. So I welcome that sort of feel as we go. I definitely think it's more fun to keep everyone in the same group together. But as we grow, hopefully faster, we can start to do more things that maybe give other coaches that click, the same topics or the same themes, the opportunity to run those groups together. The next point is how to get new customers. So this is the part that I think that most of us are probably in this phase, whenever you're growing your business, oftentimes this is what the corporate trainers I work with say, 1, you work on yourself and you start getting yourself to Success Club. 2, you start bringing in new coaches. 3, you start helping your coaches get to Success Club. So getting customers is really going to that very first piece, right? Getting yourself to Success Club. And it's not all Success Club, as we know, but that's just kind of what Beachbody sets as their benchmark. But getting new customers, the biggest and best way you could do it is to keep your doors open at all times. Showing up on your social media, that's your storefront, right? Keeping your doors open, saying I've got this group coming up, putting this, stories out there saying what's coming up, going live and making your own videos saying what you plan to do next. And a lot of times with this, you guys, I say legitimately, I'm struggling with this right now. Therefore, I'm going to run a group around this right now because ultimately I need it. just like this call. Like, I need to find joy right now in a month that feels really kind of crummy. So I'm going to run a call about how to find joy, because ultimately it's like reinforcing it, right? Same thing with running groups, I think, and keeping your doors open. And honestly, now with Instagram stories, it's really easy to have your doors open, right? Like, you're posting a couple stories almost each day about what you're doing. And I don't mean, I was thinking about this as I was like watching the presentation that inspired this for me today, because I went to kind of do a little research on the girl that gave the talk, and I did some research on another girl. And what I noticed is they don't have these like cookie cutter Beachbody coach stories. It's not like a couple of workouts. Here's my next group. Now I'm going to have my recover. I feel really great. And I'm going to go be a cool mom and do this. No, they were like, one is like, I'm pregnant. I haven't worked out in 6 months, but I'm like, it wasn't really like this extreme, but you know, now I'm feeling better and I'm ready to get back on the wagon. And then the next one was about like the next show she likes, or, hey, would you recommend like this or this for baby? Putting polls that have nothing to do with Beachbody groups. And then the other girl that I was watching was putting out like all of her fall decor, saying where she got it from, asking like, are you like a pumpkin person, or are you like the Halloween, like scary stuff? And engaging with our audience in different ways. And I think that is really great to have the reminder of, because we do not have to be the walking Beachbody billboard. Like Nicole, when she posted about being a breastfeeding advocate, like that is a platform I would take and run with it in my stories. I know Stacy obviously is going back to teaching. That is a platform I would take and run with it in my stories. Ashley's buying a new house, trying to fix up her house. Home improvement galore in my stories. You know, those are things that like you can take and you can really start to connect with other people that maybe they don't give a shit about working out, but maybe they're like, I really love home improvement and I live in this area where she's going, and I really like that paint colors. Maybe we'll start talking about that first. Then I'll start watching her stories more, and I'll notice that she does these workouts from home in this new house that she just fixed up. So it looks really great. Maybe I want to work out in my new house too, because I love it. Like, you know, like it doesn't all come together in a perfect bubble or like gift wrap, whatever. But that's the kind of stuff that I think we often miss out on, because we get so ingrained in like, I wake up, I drink Energize, I work out, I post. Here's my group. Here's what I do next. Like, I read my book. And those things are great. They really are. But there's so much of like us missing that, right? Like, the more I decided I was going to start cussing and drinking and talking about reality TV in my stories, the more I found like I'm having conversations with people. Whereas if it's like, oh, I'm talking about, you know, like my workout, and this person doesn't care about working out, like that's never going to start a story. So I think that's kind of a cool thing to keep in mind. Like, we talk about going back to your pillars, or like the 5 things that make you you, like that changes with every season of life. So if you think about those things now, like really start to seek out other people who are doing the same things, or maybe they're like going back to work, like Stacy after a couple of years of being a stay-at-home mom completely, and they're kind of nervous too. Like, you can have such good connections and such good relationships built off of those things, that I think that that's a really cool thing to build upon. Amanda, I know we always talk about like you're being a farm girl and riding horses and stuff like that. Like, there's so many ways we can connect with people outside of this world. And ultimately, a lot of people don't know about this world, so they don't even know what to talk to us about with it anyways. So that is one way, I think, of making sure your doors are open and you start new conversations with people. The other thing is like sharing reviews. I know Stacey's really good at this, shouting out other people in our teams, like showing it's not just us, and showing our network is huge, which I know we're really good at that. Referrals, like lately this has happened to me more, but like I'll message somebody to introduce myself on Instagram. They're like, my friend told me to follow you. And of course they're like a Beachbody customer of somebody else or whatever half the time. But I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like, why'd they tell you to follow me? Like, now I want to know more, you know, and that starts a conversation there. And then like the Lindsay who spoke for our call that wrote the book tagged like her blogger friend in one of my posts. And then we started talking, and now we're talking about fashion. Like, you know, it's not all Beachbody stuff, but it's nice to make those connections. And if you have other people that you're talking to that are well connected, they'll recommend you to other people. And that's really cool. So referrals are great. And then of course, asking your challengers for referrals as well. And then this is the last piece that I want to say about this. A lot of times in this, like, you're kind of talking to 2 different people. One is you before Beachbody. That is who you're talking to oftentimes to get customers, right? Like the tired mom, the maybe postpartum mom, the girl that felt disconnected from like a tribe, or the girl that lives like an hour from a gym and can't make that happen. Like, those are people you want to talk to, right? Because they are the old you and you can relate. those people oftentimes are like the customer prospects you want to talk to. Your coaching prospects are going to be different. They're going to be the person that you are now, like the go-getter that decided to start their side hustle, that is helping them do this, or maybe that's giving them the confidence, that's making them feel sexier at home, that's making them like want to go like crush new goals, you know, with races or running or, you know, whatever. A lot of times those people are going to be your coach prospects. And I have a hard time keeping this in mind. And oftentimes I just share the old me a lot, which means I'm attracting a lot more people that need nurturing and they need a lot of attention and they need hand holding, which is fine. Like I don't mind doing that for challengers, but it's not that efficient with my time if everybody I bring in is in that same space. So I have to balance that with talking to the people that I want to bring into my team, which are people that are self-starters. They're people that are really excited about the possibility of creating time freedom for themselves, or who maybe just want to earn a free vacation for their family, or maybe have student loan debt that they just can't see through to enjoy their lives, like to go shopping when they want. Like those are the people that I want for coaching. So keep that in mind whenever you're posting about like, you know, bringing people onto your team versus bringing people into your groups. You will be kind of targeting two different people. And ultimately what you'll see is some of your challengers that are real rock star challengers turn into the like new you who's ready to coach. And that's great. You'll invite them to coaching at that time. And then some people that you encounter on social media, often they intimidate you a little bit. Those are going to be the people that you want to invite to coaching. So just make sure that your like language is directed at them the correct way. Your posts are kind of covering both like the new me versus old me type thing, and that you are putting the right calls to action to the right people whenever you're making those posts. And then the last two things I want to say is, you know, one is invite how it works for you. And I think we all kind of struggle with this. Some people like me, like when I hear I invite 50 people a day, I automatically think in my mind, I must invite 50 people a day to get to where I want to go. And that's ultimately not the case. I just know I'm a higher, like I need to invite more people to get to where I want to be. But other people are much better about like nurturing their relationship along to get to the right spot to invite. And they don't have to do 30 people a day or 15 people a day or whatever. But I would just say this, if you know that it would really turn you off to get a DM on Instagram, be like, hey girl, thanks for watching my stories. Like, I'm really loving this journey. You want to join me? Like, if you would just be like, delete on that person or block, do not invite that way. If for some reason though, it might appeal to you a little bit more, like, hey, thanks for watching my stories. Like, I noticed on your page that you are a mom of two and you live close to me and you do this, this, and this. Like, how did you find me? Or like, you know, do you like fitness too? Is that how you connected with me? And starting a conversation there, and maybe that leads to an invite. Do that. Do what works for you and do what sounds best to you. Don't go do that like canned invite that we share in a thread just because that's what's working for me, you know? So keep that in mind. I think putting your own voice in this is really important, and making this something that feels good for you is huge, because if it feels icky to you, you're not going to find any joy in this. I promise. You'll just be like, I hate doing this part. Inviting is always the worst part because it's like us putting ourselves out there. But if you're doing it in a genuine way for you, it can feel a lot better, and you can be starting so many more good relationships and conversations with it. And then last but not least is, I heard this today and I thought it was really great. I kind of talked about it a second ago with the stories piece. She said, find people that will actually watch your stories. Like, meaning that find your niche, right? And she was saying that it's this girl who I watched another call from basically like a year ago. Everyone on her team hated her, and she was like the leader of the team, and she didn't know what to do about it. And she just went live in her team, and she's like, I'm sorry, I don't know like where our disconnect here is, but I just want to recommit to you guys, like, to be more transparent and, you know, connect with you more. And her team had a huge transformation because they finally got to like a real place. But she said at that time she had a team that she wouldn't even like go out to a restaurant and hang out with. Like, these would not be her friends. She didn't feel comfortable around them. She would go to Summit and she would avoid them at all costs. Like, to me, that sounds like it's the complete opposite of joy. And she said, when I decided to start really being me and my stories and sharing me more and sharing what my likes and my interests were, and I started seeking out other people like through hashtags or accounts that were in those same seasons of life, she's like, I found my best friends and I found my tribe in this. And she said, find the people that will be watching your stories because you have something in common and you have the same interests. And I thought that was a really cool like takeaway, very helpful to remember, because I think sometimes we do, or I do, like get, stuck in my, like, gotta post 7 today. I'll probably make 3 workouts, 1, maybe a cool little excerpt of what I read. Maybe another one's going to be just a picture of my lunch. Like, there's none of me in that, like they'll be like, okay, this girl works out, she eats and she reads. But that doesn't mean anything, versus where if I like go live and I share about my kids and I talk about like maybe a struggle with fitting things in with them, or with Colin being gone because he's in the Army or whatever, like that's where people are going to find my substance. And that's where, like, if they actually have something in common or something I say strikes them, they'll start watching my stories. So I think kind of approaching stories in that way is a really cool idea. And part of me was like, maybe one day this week, I'm going to go a whole day with posting nothing about Beachbody, just making it all about things that I like outside of that. And like, just sprinkle some more of that in, because I do think sometimes it gets a little repetitive for me, So I just wanted to share that with you guys too, in case that would be helpful for you, because I know we all have our seasons of life. We all have our teams we pull for. We all have our, like, maybe small groups or churches that we love, or, I don't know, like lifestyle type stuff that really, resonates with us. And sharing more of that is really how you grow on social media in general. That's how you become like the attraction marketer, and you bring people in, and then you maybe the next day are sharing a workout clip or 2, and those people are like, oh, she also likes to work out. Like, that's kind of cool. And then the next day you're going back to posting more interesting things about you. But I think kind of varying things up a little bit was my big takeaway, because I just feel that I at sometimes just kind of hide behind that like Beachbody schedule, Okay, I see a chat. Sorry. I need more excitement in my life. Well, I mean, I know in general, like when I travel and do cool stuff is when I share the least. When in reality, I probably should be sharing more of that stuff, because that would be more intriguing. But I just am like, I want to be present. And then the next day I come home and I'm like, all the cool stuff did not get documented, and I'm back to Beachbody mode. And I feel like hearing that call today was really helpful, because we're about to go on this big trip, and I'm like, I'm going to make a real point to share more stuff about the trip, and like clothes that I bought because I wanted to look cool in Europe, and like, stuff that interests me more than like just workouts, And I think some of that, like, Stacey, for you, like if it's tailgating and going to the football games and, the stuff that you do with your kids and sharing tips on like entertaining kids. Hell, like when you say that, you have 2 or 3 days with them, like, what do you do for all these hours to entertain? Like, that stuff is like, I would watch, because I'd be like, oh, okay, like I could do that, because I'm not a Pinterest mom, So I just feel like we all have our strengths, and it doesn't have to be that we have like the coolest life ever going, I don't know, on a vacation every other week or whatever. But I think that there are parts of you that like you probably don't share as much, because you just feel like, oh, that's not that interesting. When in reality, if that's your real life, more often than not, share that stuff, I think social media tends to be so like like crafted, by people, especially in posts, that when you can really show real life in stories, you start to pick up such better relationships with people, because it's hard to be that transparent and like feel real now on social media. Stories is really the only way I know how to do it. Like, Amanda, I swear, if you just videoed like once a day, you losing your mind at your child or your husband, like going on like Amanda's daily rant, people will be like, yes, girl, I deal with that all the time. It's just little stuff like that. Does anybody else have any questions? Sorry, I ran over. I'm going to stop the recording.